It is time for another edition of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I am Jason Foy. It's always joined by my guy, Pete Rogers. We're here to break down UFC 316 goes down on Saturday in Newark, New Jersey. Of course, we've got a title fight rematch in the main event. Merab Dvalishvili defending his title against the former champion Sean O'Malley. And then the co-main event, you got Julianna Pena making her first title defense since becoming champion once again. She takes on Kayla Harrison. Also, we got Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Of course, that was a matchup that was supposed to take place a couple months ago. Joe Pyfer has to pull out on fight day to an illness. We got the UFC debut of Patchy taking on Bautista. And, Pete, it's one of these fight cards on paper. When you start to kind of look at it, you don't get that sexiness vibes to it. But I guess I was kind of doing my prep for the show here today. I was like, you know what? There's some there's some interesting fighters. I mean, we got some massive favorites on the prelims, but yeah, this card's a little better than my perception of was it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pay-per-view, right? So like it should be. It should be good. It's a Sean O'Malley card. It's got Merab Dvalishvili, and it does have some talent littered throughout. Kayla Harrison against Julianna Pena. I mean, for women's MMA, like Kayla Harrison has the capabilities of going down as one of the best of all time if she can keep it going. And then you do have some bangers. I'm probably most excited, truthfully, for Patchy Mix's debut. It's a pretty difficult debut against Mario Bautista, but I am intrigued to see how his skills translate over into the UFC. And then outside of that, like there are some interesting matchups. It seems like a chalky card, Jason. It does seem like a ton of chalk. It seems like a ton of wide lines. And even though I do agree with the fighters that are favored, it's like, golly, how can I get behind them as such crazy price tags? Whereas I may be picking some of these fighters to win, but I don't know if I would be touching their lines for parlays or their lines for betting. I may look towards more valuable plays that I just think the odds could be slightly incorrect. And we're looking to turn everything around after last week's horrific card. I think personally the worst card I've ever done and probably the worst viewing card I've ever seen. So yeah, let's leave that in the rear view. Let's start moving on to this much improved and better type of UFC card.
As we sit here on Monday evening, we have 13 fights scheduled for Saturday. We'll see if we get to 13 fights. The salaries are out already on DraftKings. We do have 3 fights where we do not have salaries on there. I've kind of got some projections where I think the salaries are going to be. But, when I looked at the salaries, the first thing that jumps out to me is the salaries for the co-main event, where you got Kayla Harrison is the most expensive fighter on this slate at $9,700, taking on Julianna Pena at $6,500. And I mean, I understand why Kayla Harrison is a betting favorite, but to me, the line is just so large, and I've been kind of surprised in our Discord community that a lot of people really have not been talking about the fact of the value that is going to be there on Julianna Pena.
Yeah, women's MMA typically does go long. Kayla Harrison does have like the potential to finish opponents a little bit more than average women's MMA fighters because of her unbelievable submission skills, her power, her strength, and now the incorporation of ground and pound. The line in that fight is ridiculous too. $9,700 for Kayla Harrison at a steep price tag. How many people are going to want to get to that? $6,500 Julianna Pena. If she survives multiple rounds, as long as she's not stuck on bottom, she literally could put up solid points. My issue is if she's constantly on bottom or defending takedowns, where is the volume coming from? If it's on the feet, of course. I do like the fact that she can land significant strikes, total strikes. Perhaps she can get a reversal on the mat or survive some sticky situations, work towards a back take. But yeah, I do think the price tag is interesting. I'll have to wait to see if I agree with you or not about whether I'll get to it. But yeah, all in all, Jason, I'm looking at this card and I was really hoping to have a ton of underdogs like that popped for me or popped, just on paper. And I don't know. We'll have to see if you agree or disagree with me, but it's somewhat of a struggle. Seems super chalky.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult to get away from the main event, whether you are Team Merab or whether you're Team Sean O'Malley. I think you look at the salaries, very affordable on both sides of the equation. Of course, we know about Merab and what he can do with the takedowns. Of course, we know about the striking ability of Sean O'Malley. I mean, O'Malley is 7,200. You know, as I was kind of putting together a little bit of document here and, you know, kind of spreading the salaries out between, you know, the 9,000 range, 8,000 range, 7,000 range, 6,000 range. In that 7,000 range, I think there's really two fighters that really stick out to me in that range. One being O'Malley because of the knockout power. The other being Waldo Cortes-Acosta at 7,900. I believe his matchup against Serghei Spivac is going to be a GPP priority for a lot of us out there. And pricing is weird this week. Would that be a good way to describe it?
I mean, it's just chalky. I mean, it's like I don't see tremendous value other than like some desperation shots. But like as far as confident picks, I mean, we're missing 3 fights, 6 fighters as you mentioned. So I'm maybe we'll like the slate a little bit more once they add those fighters.
But Pete, you're talking about Azamat is a
I forget him. He might.
He's a 6-1 betting favorite. Chaos Williams is a -210 betting favorite, and Marquel Mederos is a -250 betting favorite. This is going to be a slate where we're not going to have an 8,200, 8,000 fight.
Thank God. Thank God. I don't care. You saw how that worked out for me last week back in Macy Chasson. I mean, good Lord. Outside of the final flurry in the 30 seconds of round 3, I mean, she was on the receiving end of Ketlin Vieira, looking like a pretty dominant fighter. And, you know, look what Kayla Harrison did to her. So, yeah, last week was the worst thing I've ever seen, or the worst thing that I've ever bet or predicted or broken down. It was horrible. If you made money last week, maybe you just didn't play. You know what I mean? Or you played one prop or something, because I think everybody got murdered last week, especially because, all right, say I had the night all pretty solid. I had the main event smashed for exposure. So the second the main event crapped out and was canceled, there goes majority of my lineup. So what did I have? Like almost 80% Blanchfield, 20% Macy Barber. So it was one way or another, I was not going to succeed last week. So we just move on.
No, on the betting side, it was not a good night for me. Flat out, was not a good night. I mean, the only thing that I hit was actually Jordan Levitt winning via finish, and he went out there and just
made it look easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's for a guy that's entered the fight just a barely over 500 fighter in the UFC. He made it just like, hey, we're just going to jiu-jitsu class today, and we got a white belt just coming in. I'm just going to school him.
Right, bro, I said it in our Discord. I said, who knew my Jordan Levitt prediction would have been the most accurate prediction of all last week? Because it's like one of the few things that I was completely correct on.
Yeah, and like
goodness.
And another bet that I will tell you I felt super confident in was Zach Reese to win under 1.5 rounds. And
Dusko didn't do bad though.
No. It's just it was a fight that, I mean, after the first 5 minutes, I go, this ain't cashing.
Yeah. How about Jafel Filio going out there dominating, looking awesome in round 1, and then just completely falling apart on the takedown defense and getting backpacked and controlled. And I was just like, goodness, there goes another underdog that had a good path.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I said this on my other podcast last week of MMA is a sport that we should never be surprised when something happens. Yeah. And it just feels like every UFC card, something new happens. And you're just like, and I didn't have any bets on the main event. I really, I had probably about 50% exposure on the main event in DFS lineups, but the lineups I had were live were not really affected by the main event cancellation. But like, I've been around this sport 15 years. I can't ever recall a fight being canceled due to a fighter having a seizure backstage.
Yeah, this definitely not. I remember like what the hell is this guy's name? Emmers backed out like while his opponent was in the cage. Chaz Skelly, am I correct by saying that? Chaz Skelly was in the cage bouncing around,
Sounds
and
right.
Jamal Emmers didn't walk out. I don't remember what that was for. But it goes to show you that I don't know what's going on with Macy Barber or other athletes, but the rehydration process is a science, and weight cutting is a science in itself. And a lot of people are super depleted in the electrolytes and their salt levels. So when they are rehydrating, they may not be doing it in the correct steps that a nutritionist or a weight cutting expert or team would recommend. Um, and they're just winging it, man, or they're cutting way too much, and then they are not replenishing, anything. So I don't know if it had anything to do with that, but I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of times seizures
Mhm.
week of the fight at weigh-ins are common because of weight cutting issues.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it also may be related to some of the health issues that she has had over the last year, if that plays anything into it. And, it's, one of the things that I really thought about when I saw it was more along the lines of, is it going to be safe for her to even compete going forward? And I'm sure that the UFC is going to put her through a battery test and before that they're willing. And, if you're, I will say this. I was very happy to see that Aaron Blanchfield said the UFC paid her win and show money. Plus, she got 20% of Macy Barber's show money because Macy Barber missing weight on Friday. So I thought that was great to see the UFC did that because I feel like there may have been a time that may not have happened.
Yeah, for sure. And um, as far as Macy Barber, say you're a part of Macy Barber's camp or you're her manager, I don't know if they'll ever put you in the main event ever again. Like, and I know it's to no fault of her own having a medical issue, but I just don't know if they could ever take that chance again. It could happen to anybody, but because it happened to you, I don't think that they would ever do it again.
No, we've seen it happen with other fighters where it really does take you a long time to get in there. We will have a DraftKings contest for UFC 316 later on this week, so be on the lookout for that. We'll put that link in our Discord channel. Of course, if you're not a member of our Discord channel, totally free to join. The link for that channel is in the description below. Of course, also Pete has got his Patreon page where you can look at Pete's algorithm and the sheets that he puts together and how he develops his line and what the algorithm is telling him on who they think is going to win the fights. But let's get right into talking about this one. Of course, it's going to be headlined by the rematch between Merab Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley. Merab Dvalishvili, he's priced at $9,000 on DraftKings. Sean O'Malley at $7,200. On the betting side of the equation, Merab is minus 290 betting favorite, plus 235 for the former champion. Of course, we all know when you think about Merab Dvalishvili, you think about the relentless takedowns that he is going to go out there. In their first matchup, he was 6 for 15 in takedown attempts. The best round O'Malley had in terms of that was in the fifth. It was in the third round when Merab was 0 for 5 in takedown attempts. Overall, in that total fight, Merab had 10 minutes of control time, landed 214 total strikes in that matchup. Of course, we've not seen Sean since that matchup there back in September of last year. It's been very well documented about the changes he has made in terms of getting off social media, eliminating marijuana, which I did find his quote on that very interesting of why he made that decision, some other changes that he has made. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, but this is the one odd stat I found on Sean O'Malley, Pete. He has 10 UFC wins. Only 3 of those wins are against fighters currently in the UFC. Cheeto Vera, Aljamain Sterling, and Peter Yan. It was one of those things of like, as I was just kind of putting together some notes for the show today, I was like, wow, that's kind of an odd stat.
Yeah, I definitely know that his path has been a lot easier than some others, and I think that's why when he faced Piotr Yan, you were not a believer at all. I remember like you were like, dude, Peter Yan's gonna smoke this kid because it's such a massive step up of competition. he did step up and he did beat three very, very talented fighters, as you mentioned, in Aljo, Peter Yan, and Marlon Vera. But his highlights against lower level competition really boosted his profile and boosted him into a superstar. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter the strength of schedule from superstardom, but it got him the title. I think having to face Merab was probably like the worst stylistic like matchup that he could have had, because even though Merab looks sloppy and he looks vulnerable on the feet, and his durability's always in question. Like even in the final round of their first encounter, getting kicked in the body after O'Malley got dominated. Like, O'Malley hurt Merab, and like Merab has been knocked down and wobbled and hurt by numerous fighters. So I think we're always counting out Merab from a durability standpoint. But like, I think the reason he can recover so quickly is because he's in such fantastic shape. So yes, maybe his striking defense is not the greatest. And like when he does get hit clean, he does kind of get hurt a little too much. But I mean, I've been projecting Merab to get knocked out for like 5 fights in a row now, and it hasn't happened at all. From like since Marlon Moraes, Merab came back. Jose Aldo, Peter Yan, Cejudo, O'Malley, Umar. I mean, like, how many more fighters do I have to bank on to knock out Merab Dvalishvili before, like, I just realize maybe it's just not happening, because he puts strikes out there. He's not a sitting duck. The strike output is very similar between Merab and O'Malley from attempted, 10.3 from Merab, 10.9. The firepower of O'Malley is definitely more significant. But then you talk about the takedowns attempted, like over 25 minutes, Merab's going to attempt 28 takedowns. That sounds absolutely bananas, but it's true. If this goes 25 minutes, he has that pace to attempt 28 takedowns attempted. I mean, against Peter Yan, he attempted 50 takedowns. So, like, it all depends on how much O'Malley makes him work. And if O'Malley's takedown defense has improved, could actually boost the totals of Merab because he's going to need to work more. Or if O'Malley can get back his feet and stand back up, it can just lead to Merab. Granted, I'm always worried about Merab getting hurt. He's going up against a dangerous superstar striker in Sean O'Malley, who's 4 years younger and has 9 inches in the height plus reach department. But, I mean, it's really hard for me to not back a guy with tremendous volume, especially when I've been thinking everybody under the sun was going to go out there and knock him out. I really thought Umar Nurmagomedov was the perfect recipe to defend the takedowns of Merab Dvalishvili and punish him with good striking, whether it was a knee or a head kick, and it never materialized. O'Malley's a technician on the feet, and he's a sniper who will pick his shots, and he does find the KO blow often. I think from a value standpoint, like from a betting standpoint, like I wouldn't want Merab a part of a parlay. I do think that Merab via decision is probably the most likely. But given where the odds are, Merab's typically an underdog. So to see a massive favorite attached to his name is just odd because, is he going to go out there and best his previous performance over Sean O'Malley? Maybe. But, more than likely, it's going to be a little bit more competitive. It could even be more competitive because of rounds staying on the feet. We saw what happened when Bilal Muhammad fought JDM. I mean, he had the path. He just did not take the path. So I don't blame anybody for taking the value side of Sean O'Malley. I don't blame anybody for thinking that all the changes of O'Malley is going to lead to a victory. I'm not sure O'Malley can function without marijuana, so I don't know how that's going to affect him. But, from a value standpoint, I understand O'Malley, but I will be back in Merab Dvalishvili. If he gets knocked out in this one after I've been betting on him to get knocked out for the past 6 fights, then so be it. Yeah, I'm gonna go Merab Dvalishvili here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that in terms of going with Merab and what he has the ability to do. I mean, you mentioned about, and another crazy stat is the stat that you brought up there about when he had the 50 takedown attempts against Jan. Is, to me, it's the one thing I sit there and I've listened to some of the interviews that Tim Welch has given leading up to this. Of course, Tim Welch is the head coach of Sean O'Malley, and to me it's just been very interesting to see kind of some of the things that Tim Welch has said leading into this one. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how does this ultimately play out there. The pick is going to be Merab. Look, I don't mind if you want to be a Sean O'Malley backer, especially when you're talking about from a DraftKings perspective at 7,200. I totally see the value there. But to me, overall, Merab is going to be the pick for me. He'll probably be a core play for me in my DraftKings lineups just because of that takedown upside that he does have in this one. From the betting side, obviously there are, not many props right out there. I'll be looking to see what is the Merab props to win via decision, just because of, Merab is a decision fighter. I mean, 12 of his 14 UFC fights have gone the distance, but maybe if you want to get a little juicy, if you get a really good number on Sean O'Malley to win by knockout, you might want to look at that one as well. Then our co-main event will be the women's bantamweight title fight as Julianna Pena defends the title against Kayla Harrison. Pena is priced at $6,500 on DraftKings. Harrison price tagged at $9,700. She is a minus 650 betting favorite, plus 425 for Julianna Pena. Of course, the last time we saw Julianna Pena was when she regained the title as she went out there and got the win against Raquel Pennington back in October. She does have a 3-inch reach advantage in this one. One of the things that always is going to be a concern for me, Pete, is the inactivity of Julianna Pena over the past couple of years. This will only be her third fight since 2022. In that same time period, Kayla Harrison has fought 7 times. Just kind of shows you the difference there. The betting line is wide here. I do want to see what does Kayla Harrison look like on the scale coming up here on Friday. I mean, we all know the amount of weight she's probably wrecking her body to make 135 pounds. I mean, that's probably the most likely scenario for it. The two questions that I really have about this fight, Pete, and I'll get your take, is on the Harrison side, is there a path to victory if she cannot get takedowns? And then the other part is, do you trust the takedown offense of Julianna Pena?
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. This is an interesting one because we have a massive line associated with Kayla Harrison, who we know struggles to make weight, or not struggles to make weight, but it's a tremendous weight cut that she has to endure to make the weight limit. I mean, this girl's, accustomed to fighting at 155 pounds in PFL. She has been 25 minutes in the past, but has she been 25 minutes under duress in a main event or co-main event that is 5 rounds? I mean, she's been 5 rounds before, and a part of American Top Team and winning the $1 million. You would think that she has the correct people around her to have her prepared in numerous ways. We'll have to see, right? And I don't blame people for going out there and wanting to back Pena in a super, super cheap spot where she could, maybe come on to the fight late, if Kayla starts to fatigue or if Kayla starts to wear down and Pena just doesn't go away. I just have a hard time seeing anybody in the division dealing with the physicality of Kayla Harrison. I got to tell you, because, I mean, when I'm looking at the metrics here and we see Kayla Harrison's takedowns sitting at 4.58 per 25, which she's attempting 15 per 25 minutes. I love that going up against Julianna Pena, whose takedown defense is poor, sitting at 23%. If this goes 25 minutes, and Kayla Harrison doesn't gas, I think that she could land 10 takedowns. It all depends on if Pena can get back to her feet. It all depends on if Pena can deal with the ground and pound, if Pena cannot get submitted. I mean, the physicality of Kayla Harrison is like nothing we've seen, and I don't foresee Julianna Pena spoiling the Kayla Harrison party. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't blame people for hating the lines and wanting to take some value on Pena, but I'd much more be interested if, after this fight, betting on whoever Harrison is fighting. If it is Amanda Nunes, well, I would love to see what the lines are. Just for a complete example, if she was facing, Cyborg, I would love to see what the lines would be, because like those are fighters that I can get behind. Julianna Pena, to me, squeaked by Raquel Pennington, if that. Not even sure if I even agree with the decision. I think she was surprised. On the feet, like even Pena on the feet, she just swims her punches. Her blitzes lead to her getting knocked down. I mean, I remember having a dream thinking she was going to beat Amanda Nunes. I didn't voice it. And she went out there and she beat Amanda Nunes. And then I backed Julianna Pena in the rematch, and she got the shit kicked out of her. And she got completely destroyed. And Amanda Nunes did whatever the hell she wanted to her. And it was a pathetic performance, and one where Amanda Nunes just looked absolutely amazing. I understand that I'm comparing Kayla Harrison to Amanda Nunes, but I just think like she's elite. And for me, I think that Pena's just been a little bit better than a lot of her opposition. I've never once thought of her as elite. So, I mean, even on the feet, I think that they're both going to be attempting similar strikes, about 7.6 for Harrison, 7.3 for Julianna Pena. But it's the wrestling. Like Pena's used to being able to, find takedowns in her own right, 3.02 for per 25 minutes. But I don't see her landing a takedown against Kayla Harrison, maybe one if she gets lucky. But for the most part, I see Kayla Harrison doing whatever the hell she wants to do with Julianna Pena. The only thing you're hoping for Pena bettors is that Harrison gasses, and then she, that Pena takes over late. But for me, I just don't see it happening.
Look, I understand where you're coming from there, Pete. As I mentioned, as I was, talking about the fight to start, is one of the concerns I do have is the weight cut. I think it's, Kayla has talked about it, and it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. To me, rostering Pena is about the value in terms of here, and how many times you've talked about it, I've talked about it. What happens if this thing's a 25-minute fight? And let's just say Kayla's going to win a decision, okay? At 6,500, what happens if Pena goes out there and gets you 50 points? You're muted, Pete.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, like the 50 points in a 25-minute decision could happen. But that's why you bet value. You don't always bet on who you think's going to win. You bet on the lines and if they're accurate to your estimation or not. Like if you look at a line and you say, I think that it should be a lot closer than that. Put some money on Pena, for instance, because whenever you find these inefficiencies within the market, that's where you can become profitable rather than just backing, crazy favorites like that end up losing. So. Especially for DFS. It's all about just getting to that 600 plus points. And I don't fall 6,500. Have we ever seen anything cheaper than that? I would love to know.
If there was anybody cheaper, it may have been someone taking on Valentina Shevchenko at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing you guys sit here and you look at Harrison's two fights in the UFC. Against Holmes, she was priced at 9,300. She scored 112.5 points. Her last fight, she was 9,800 against Caitlin Vieira, scored 84.8 points. And she scored two takedowns in each of those matchups. I mean, to me, it's going to be that price point of getting Kayla Harrison. That's where, you want to see where's ownership projections at later on this week of, maybe is there, I would imagine that Julianna Pena is going to be, if not the highest owned underdog, one of the highest owned underdogs, just because of that price point. But right, I sit here and do I think Kayla Harrison's a better fighter? Yes, I do. I just the one concern I have is that weight cut and what does that potentially look like. Next up, we got a middleweight matchup that was supposed to take place back there in March. It did not happen due to an illness. You got Joe Pyfer taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum priced at 7,000 on DK. Joe Pyfer, he's at 9,200 on the betting side. Pyfer minus 380 betting favorite, plus 290 for Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum, of course, has been in the UFC for a long time. Things have not gone well in his last 9 fights, 3 wins, 6 losses. 8 of his last 10 fights have gone the distance. You got to wonder, could takedowns be coming? And his last matchup against Daniel Rodriguez was 4 for 4 in the takedown department. Last stoppage win, Pete. It was so long ago, we weren't even doing a show together. It was 2017, the last time he got a stoppage win against Michael Bisping.
I was going to say Michael Bisping. Damn, yeah.
Yeah. And you remember Bisping took that fight, on short notice after losing the title. Ultimately, that was Bisping's last fight. But yeah, that's the last time he's got there, got a stoppage victory. For Joe Pyfer, of course, he was the reason the first matchup got canceled due to illness, blaming food poisoning there in Mexico. All of his UFC wins have come via stoppage. This will be his first fight in almost a year. His last fight was June 29th, 2024, and he does have a 4-inch reach advantage, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I was intrigued about the Gastelum underdog when they were in Mexico, right? Because of the elevation. I knew that Gastelum went out there early, and he was out there hustling, getting acclimated, making sure that the elevation wasn't going to deter his performance. He was going to go out there with hopefully more gas than his opponent, who was not going out there early and was just going to be slightly preparing in a hyperbaric chamber, which I think definitely would prepare him, but not to the level of actually going to the place that you're at. I was tempted to get to Kelvin Gastelum in that situation just because of we've seen Pyfer, get tired in the past. Granted, it was against Jack Hermanson over 25 minutes in his first headliner. But outside of that, he's mostly a first or second round finisher. So it makes sense that, his cardio would deplete a little bit sooner than other fighters. Very fast twitch type of guy, good power, good speed, good explosiveness, true middleweight though. And let's call it what it is. Kelvin Gastelum belongs at welterweight. So I do think that there are going to be some of these matchups where you're looking at KG and you're saying, I just don't like him at middleweight. It's pretty similar to Kevin Holland, right? Kevin Holland, I like him a lot at welterweight. I do not like him one bit at middleweight. But at least Kevin Holland has the height and the reach. KG's just got toughness and a big tough head that can absorb a ton of damage. So in this matchup against Pyfer in a neutral territory, you got 5 years younger Pyfer, 8.5 inches in the height plus reach department for Pyfer. The strikes attempted will be similar, 9.07 for Pyfer, Gastelum 8.9. The takedowns attempted, I think, is interesting because, yes, we saw Gastelum go to the takedown well against Daniel Rodriguez. I don't think he's strong enough to do that against Joe Pyfer, who trains with an excellent group of fighters at Marquez BJJ, with the former team of Renzo Gracie Philly. I think that Pyfer can actually be the guy to land takedowns. I think he's a stronger athlete. So 1.45 takedowns per 15 minutes for Pyfer is about 3.5, and about 3.5 attempted for Gastelum as well. So I'm intrigued to see what Kelvin Gastelum's strategy is, because I just don't know if he's underestimating Pyfer's grappling ability. And maybe he's just going to go out there and try to tax Pyfer, move a little bit, not stay there for big shots coming back his way. But yeah, I like Pyfer here, Jason. I was more intrigued to get Gastelum in the Mexico card. But here, I think that Pyfer can land big shots. Could he be could he be the guy to knock out Kelvin Gastelum and absolutely turn his lights off? He could be. He could also be the guy that takes down Kelvin Gastelum and looks for a big arm triangle choke, a big strong type of submissions. But I can also see him just, going up against the durable Kelvin Gastelum, who is hittable. I could see him just winning a decision, as you and I talked pre-show. So give me Joe Pyfer via decision.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is a matchup where this is kind of that test of, are you a top 10 guy or not? I mean, about Joe Pyfer, when you're taking on Kelvin Gastelum. I like Joe Pyfer win. I think more times than not, he probably wins via decision. But a lot of that's just counting on the durability we've seen in Kelvin Gastelum over the years, but you know it, I know it, everyone who listens to this podcast knows that at some point, Father Time does hit everyone in terms of that. Samuel, appreciate the super chat. Also, Samuel piping in with another question. Which was how much Nunez coming back to fight the winner. That is everything you've heard. That is the plan by the UFC. I feel fairly confident saying this. I think the UFC is hoping Kayla Harrison wins because I think they realize how big of a matchup that could be if you did Harrison, versus Nunez in a return matchup. Now we do have our next matchup does feature a fighter that's making his UFC debut. That would be the former Bellator bantamweight champion Patchy Mix, stepping up here. Just signed last month, already getting a matchup here in the UFC. He's going to be taking on Mario Bautista. Of course, Bautista. Guy's been in the UFC for a while, was already scheduled to be on this card when he was going to take on Chito Vera. Vera pulled out. That's why Patchy Mix got this opportunity. Mix price at $8,500 on DraftKings. Batista price at $7,700. Batista's a plus 145 betting. Underdog minus 175 for Mix. Last time we saw Mario Batista, got that split decision win against Jose Aldo. His last 3 fights have all gone the distance. Patchy Mix, we have not seen him in over a year. May 17, 2024 was his last matchup. That was a win against Magomedov. His previous 5 fights have all been scheduled for 5 rounds. His last 3-round fight was all the way back in 2021 when he took on James Gallagher, which I remember when that fight was booked. I go, what are y'all doing? Why do y'all hate James Gallagher? I mean, and James Gallagher probably will be in the UFC at some point, I would imagine, unless things just kind of fall off the rails. But I just remember when that fight was initially booked, I was like, Gallagher has no chance.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Patchy Mix, I think he's the best 135er on the planet. I really do. But he has to get through a very tough test in Mario Bautista before we can even really plant that flag and say it. Because how would he deal with a guy in Merab Dvalishvili if he had the opportunity? How would he deal with an Umar Nurmagomedov? How would he deal with multiple dangerous fighters a part of this weight class? It's not an easy fight for Patchy Mix to make his debut. Mario Bautista's an absolute stud. Bautista has very good striking. He has very good wrestling, and he has very good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He has shown some susceptibilities within his game. He is a very intelligent fighter, though, and he cage pushed Jose Aldo to a decision victory by just pinning him against the cage or wrestling to keep his opponents, defensive and keeping his opponents busy. I just don't see him being able to do any of that to Patchy Mix. I just don't see Bautista dictating where this fight takes place, truthfully. Skill-wise, though, he's so damn good. But, Bautista has been hit and hurt by numerous fighters. He has shown some chinks in his armor. I remember when Trevin Jones knocked out Mario Bautista. I remember when Corey Sandhagen knocked down Mario Bautista and then submitted him with an armbar. When the hell has Corey Sandhagen submitted people? So granted, that's getting thrown to the wolves, Sandhagen, in your first fight. But I think Patchy Mix is that damn good, truthfully. If Bautista presses him against the cage, he could end up in a guillotine or in a ninja choke or in a front headlock series from the dangerous and super sneaky Patchy Mix. Patchy could make him make that decision by maybe landing a dangerous shot on the feet. And whenever you get hurt, sometimes you just go to your instincts and you just shoot a takedown. And then that shot or that sloppy attempt could lead to Patchy Mix wrapping up the neck, and it will be curtains. I truthfully believe that Patchy Mix is one of the best grapplers within this division and has all the skills to climb the rankings. Not only are we getting a Bellator champion in the UFC, but we're getting one within his prime. Patchy Mix is primed to come into the UFC and compete. So, yes, he could have came in and had a softball matchup. But, if he's legit and he's a champion, then he should be tested. And this is a test. Will he pass it? I think that he does. I think that Bautista as an underdog from a value standpoint, from a UFC jitters and UFC, debut standpoint, like I don't blame people for backing Bautista because they want to do a wait and see approach for Patchy Mix. Patchy throws knees up the middle in a very sneaky manner. So if you're changing your levels, you're going to run into a knee. He landed one against Rafion Stotts. He hits decently hard. His wrestling and his pressure is good, but it's his sneaky grappling. It's his jiu-jitsu that's his strongest suit. And I could see if he gets the back or backpacks Bautista, he can find a way to submit him. So, yeah, give me Patchy Mix in the debut, even though it's a very difficult fight. I like him here. And I don't blame people for wanting to get to the value side in the true UFC veteran in Mario Bautista. But maybe, maybe people are just kind of picking Bautista because they are unfamiliar with Patchy Mix and unfamiliar with, other promotions outside the UFC. But I'm not. And I'm going to be back in Patchy Mix here.
Yeah, I mean, Patchy Mix, you talked about right there from the start. You talked about where, where we believe his place is in the 135-pound division. But unfortunately, we're in a sport that you know that when you don't fight in the UFC, you just don't get the respect you deserve. And I do believe that Patchy Mix will, if he wins on Saturday and then picks up another win, I think his third fight in the UFC will be for the title. I think Corey Sandhagen's going to get the next title matchup, but I think Patchy Mix is going to be right there. And look, and Pete, he doesn't train at the gym you hate.
I know. That's why I like it. I like it. I don't have to worry about that. I mean, outside of Jordan Levitt and Khalil Roundtree, I don't have to worry about that. I like everything about Patchy Mix. I mean, look at how good Tatiana Suarez is in the grappling department. And why is she that good? Because she's been working with her man, Patchy Mix. That's why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of funny that one of the things that came up in the first episode embedded is he had to get Tatiana's login to UFC Fight Pass so he could watch fight footage.
See, that's awesome. And I know people are going to say and kind of retort back to what I just said about, well, look how that worked out for Tatiana Suarez when she had her step up a competition. It's completely different. That's a championship fight. This is a regular fight. Mm-hmm. My only issue and worry is that being accustomed to 5 rounds, maybe you kind of get used to, having time to work with. There's no time to work with when you're in a 15-minute fight. You got to get out there and be urgent. So go out there and fight immediately. Do not let any round slip away.
That's why you hate betting Cheeto Vera in a 3-round fight. Because it always feels like he gives away the first round, and you only got 10 more minutes left to work. Let's move over to our next matchup. We have Vicente Luque taking on Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's a minus 270 betting favorite, plus 220 for Luque. Luque price is 7,400 on DraftKings. Holland is at 8,800. Vicente Luque, last time we saw him, he only needed 52 seconds to submit the Thimba Garimbo back in December. He is seeking back-to-back wins for the first time since 2021. This will be his 23rd UFC fight. He's only gone the distance 6 times in the UFC. By the way, never been submitted. We know Kevin Holland has a submission game. Just wanted to throw that one out there. We look at Kevin Holland. Very impressive win back in March against Gunnar Nelson. I don't think a lot of people, especially how he pulled the victory off there against Gunnar Nelson. Of course, we know Kevin Holland. He's the new version of Donald Cerrone. Fight anytime, anywhere. Just give him a call. Big Mouth is going to show up. This will be his 8th fight since the start of 2023. He will have a 6-inch reach advantage in this one. And it should be noted that out of his 14 UFC wins, 10 of those are via stoppage speed.
Yeah, this fight's interesting between Kevin Holland and Vicente Luque. I mean, Kevin Holland is one of the most inconsistent guys out there, but he's the most opportunistic fighter that the UFC has. So the UFC is going to keep him around. His willingness to accept fights at welterweight and middleweight is why he has created such a high profile for himself. It's why he's created such a trust within the company. That's why he's got a lot of zeros attached to the checks that he cashes after each fight. But within all of that, he's made some poor decisions, fight IQ and strategic IQ, of mapping out his career. 185 should never happen for Kevin Holland. He's a good welterweight. I do not like him at middleweight. I think he's completely undersized from a strength and physicality standpoint. At welterweight, I think the sky is the limit, truthfully. I think like he could really fight for the title, and it would be one of the most wild things because he takes this sport half serious. You know, he does it from an entertainment standpoint. You're going to pay me a lot of money to go out and fight. I'm going to accept. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think championship aspirations are anything a part of his game, but doesn't mean that he can't jump the ladder because of his profile. He is 1 year younger than Vicente Luque and 9 inches in the height plus reach department. Initially, when I saw this fight booked, I go, oof. I feel like Kevin Holland knocks out Vicente Luque. I really do. I just have this feeling where like Vicente Luque has not had a ton of success as of late inside the UFC. You know, he had unbelievable damage taken from Joaquin Buckley. He pulled off a nice submission win over Themba Gorimbo, who shot in, had no submission awareness, and just got Darce choked to oblivion. Or it was an Anaconda. I don't remember. But, you know, it's just like, man, I don't think that's the fight. I don't think that's what's going to happen. These guys are going to box. They're going to kickbox. And I think Kevin Holland's going to land a shot. And it could be a counter shot. He could be losing. Vicente Luque could be lacing up those wrestling shoes. And, you know, he could find a path to land takedowns against Kevin Holland because we know that's his Achilles heel, right? Getting taken down. Because he does just kind of sit on his back and talk and kind of play around and play guard. But Kevin Holland, when he's focused at welterweight, he can defend takedowns as evidenced in the Gunnar Nelson fight. So I don't expect Luque to be having a ton of success. He may land 1 takedown. He may attempt 3+. But as far as like the volume striking, you know, the volume was going to favor Luque. 9.9 significant strikes attempted, 8.38 for Holland. It's going to come down to the moments of Kevin Holland. And I really do think from everything that I'm visualizing, I just see Kevin Holland hitting a very hittable fighter in Vicente Luque. So if he doesn't land that knockout blow, Kevin Holland could be down rounds here against a very, very tough foe who takes the sport serious. Like Vicente Luque trains like an animal. He's going to jiu-jitsu. He's going to sparring. He's going to striking classes. I don't know how focused Kevin Holland really is. We don't see that transparency. I would imagine that he does take it seriously to a point, but you know, I still think Kevin Holland finds that chin and knocks out Vicente Luque. So I will be slightly favoring Kevin Holland here.
You know, one of the things about, you know, Kevin Holland, and he's kind of talked about this because, you know, that really has been one of the big question marks people have had about him is, you know, kind of like, you know, hey, what's your goal in the sport? And he said, he goes, do y'all look at UFC champions? He goes, you think those people have good lives? He goes, they all hate life. He goes, I'm cool doing what I'm doing here. I'll take all these fights. And I'm sure if the opportunity ever came, he would definitely take that fight. But I think Kevin does have a very good point of, you know, that champion lifestyle is a hard lifestyle, you know, with all the commitments that you have to do there. I do like Kevin Holland here, but I don't, you know, and you kind of talked about this at the beginning of the show. There's just not a lot of underdogs that you really like here. Maybe you look at, you know, Luque here as an underdog on DraftKings. If I'd almost be tempted to see what is kind of like the Kevin Holland wins in under 2.5 rounds prop. Do you get you know, can kind of trim down that minus 270 number in terms of that when we're talking about the betting side. Next up, we got Bruno Silva taking on Joshua Van. Van is a minus 600 betting favorite. He's 9,300 on DraftKings. Bruno Silva, he's at plus 400 and 6,900 on DraftKings. Bruno Silva 4-3 with 1 no contest in the UFC. All of his UFC wins have come via finish. Last time we saw him was back in December. He did lose in the 3rd round to Manel Cop. This fight was actually supposed to take place back in March, but Bruno Silva pulled out of the matchup. Of course, Van coming off that decision win in March. 5 of his 6 UFC wins have come by decision. But Pete, the stat that's going to stick out to you about Joshua Van, 8.10. That's his strikes landed per minute. He has landed 100+ strikes in 4 of his 7 UFC fights.
Yeah, nobody wants to stand with Joshua Van. And I don't blame him because he will touch you upstairs, and then he will dig to the body, and then he uses that body shot to set up his KO blows. And then when you start defending, he goes back to the body. So, like, the body work, he does not discriminate. He will punch you wherever. 8.1 significant strikes landed per minute leads to 15 strikes attempted per minute, which is bananas. You know, when I look at this line, to me, I think it's wide, truthfully. Like, I think it's wide. Like, yes, I like Joshua Van, but I don't think that Bruno Silva gets the respect that he deserves. Bruno Silva hits really hard. We have seen Joshua Van hurt countless times. Edgar Shiraz hurt him. Charles Johnson hurt him and finished him. You know, like, I think that Bruno Silva has that pop to him, and he also has that wrestling. So, like, you know, trying to wrestle Joshua Van is a losing battle, but it does take minutes off the clock. And the longer that you control or make him work, the less he can come from behind. Like, I mean, like, Joshua Van has so many come from behind victories. How many more times is he going to, you know, climb himself out of that hole? It could happen, but he would have to be dealing with adversity early. So it all comes down to Bruno Silva early, because the metrics aren't close standing. 15 strikes attempted for Van, 7.2 for Silva. So on the feet, I think that he's dead on the feet. It's the takedowns, and it's how busy Bruno Silva keeps people, because 1.92 takedowns per 15 minutes for Silva leads to 7.68 takedowns attempted because of the 25% takedown accuracy. So 7 takedowns a lot. I mean, like, and it all comes down to how long he spent on the cage. I do think this is wide. I've backed Van up, you know, a ton of times. This could be a war. Not my favorite fight for him, though. I think that he could have some struggles. Silva's hittable. He could outvolume Silva, but, like, if he doesn't respect what Silva brings, then he's going to get taken down, or he's going to get caught off guard. So, I'm not – I actually, the more I think about this, the more I'm thinking, like, value. I don't hate getting to a Bruno Silva from a complete punt. I need value. A part of the slate, you know, because 9,300 versus 6,900. I mean, the third round finish against Manel Kopp was a little questionable. Yes, he was getting teed off on, but I mean, he has shown very, very good skills against JP Bays, against Rodriguez, Tyson Nam, Cody Durden. So, I mean, I got to tell you, man, I think that Bruno Silva might be a value pick for me this week. Even though I'm picking Joshua Van to win the fight, like, Silva's price tag I just think is wrong. So, Joshua Van has all the skills to win this fight, but Bruno Silva also has the skills to make it closer than the odds suggest. So, the value pick is Bruno Silva. The straight-up pick for the fight, though, of what I think is going to happen is Joshua Van wins a decision.
Let me just throw this one out there for you. And people may be thinking this too. 1v1 situation. Do you take a 9,300 Joshua Van or a 9,200 Joe Pyfer?
I mean, let's call it like it is, Jason. Women's MMA, flyweight MMA, and heavyweight MMA have volatility, and the underdogs are a little bit underappreciated time and time again. So, it's hard not to go with Van in that 1v1 with Pyfer, just because I don't think Pyfer wins via KO, and, like, Van can put up big numbers because of the volume.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things of just. The one thing you do love about Joshua Van is the volume that he does have out there. Next up, we got Azamat taking on Ribeiro. Ribeiro is a plus 400 betting underdog, minus 600 for Azamat. We do not have any DraftKings lines on here. My projection is going to be Azamat's going to be 9,600 and Ribeiro is going to be 6,600. Last time we did see Azamat, that was a second round victory back in August against Alonzo Minifield. 4-0 in the UFC. 3 of those wins have come via finish. He was initially booked on this card to take on Johnny Walker. Of course, Walker pulled out of that matchup. Ribeiro, he is coming off a second-round win back in March. Started 0-2 in the UFC. He's now won back-to-back fights. He has been the betting underdog in every single one of his UFC fights. And Pete, the one stat that sticks out to you when you look at the tail of the tape is that reach advantage that Ribeiro has, a 10-inch reach advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bananas to see the reach advantage. I mean, 8 years younger for Ribeiro, 14 and a half inches in the height plus reach department. You know, you have Ribeiro stepping up on short notice, looking to, just step in and take advantage of an opportunity, maybe because of the physicality intangibles that favor him here. And Murzakanov has been undersized in every single fight, but he hits like a heavyweight. So it doesn't really matter how undersized he is. The strikes attempted favors Murzakanov 8.4 versus Ribeiro 7.7. And, the takedowns seem to be more likely for Ribeiro, but I think that it's a sneaky ace up Murzakanov sleeve. 0.62 takedowns per 15 minutes. Only 15% accuracy leads to 4.13 takedowns attempted. And Ribeiro hasn't defended a single takedown in the UFC. He's been taken down and controlled. So I do think that there's a sneaky path to victory there. Murzakanov just loves to strike. And he's going up against the guy with Johnny Walker type of vibes of chin issues that was on display in the Zhang Ming Yang fight. And I thought was going to be on display in the Contender Series fight when he was one of the biggest underdogs ever. And he cashed and knocked out his opponent. I think that Murzakanov via KO, I would love to see what the line is. It's probably minus 200, truthfully. I mean, that's his path to victory over most people is landing that big left hand. And I think that he's going to find it. I think that he's going to knock out Ribeiro, whether it's the first or second round. I just don't see the defense being tight enough of Ribeiro to withstand the power. And I also can see him clubbing and subbing him. So inside the distance, Murzakanov's safe, but I really do think that the KO prop will be a target of mine. I'm not in love with Ribeiro here, despite the physicality intangibles. I'm not a believer, man. I've seen too many issues a part of his game defensively. I mean, his complete defensive total is 55% because his takedown defense is 0 and his striking defense is 55%. So I just can't back him here against a guy that Murzakanov, who beat Dustin Jacoby, who beat several talented fighters. I see him being a massive favorite for a reason, and I think it's justified.
Yeah, I mean, on the betting side, you gotta go prop game hunting. I don't, you gotta find what's that inside the distance. Maybe if you think you can go out there and get the quick win in under 1.5 rounds, maybe get some value there. But yeah, Murzakanov definitely is the pick here. Next up, we got a heavyweight matchup that I think is going to be a priority when we're talking about GPP lineups. That'll be Serghei Spivac taking on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Acosta priced at 7,900 on DK. Spivac priced at 8,300. Acosta slight betting underdog here at plus 120, minus 140. For Spivac. Last time we saw Serghei Spivac was back in January, losing in the first round of Jalton Almeida. He is 8-5 in the UFC. His last 7 fights have all ended via finish. One of the notes when you look at the tail of the tape is that takedown average per 15 minutes of fighting for Spivac 4.56. And we look at Cortes-Acosta coming off that second round TKO win against Ryan Spann. He's won 4 in a row. His strikes land per minute rate 5.76, and 5 of his 7 UFC fights have gone the distance. But Pete, I mean, look, this is a matchup when you look at Serghei Spivac, is like he always kind of gets to this point, and then he just can't take that next step in his career. And I feel like for Waldo Cortes-Acosta, it is about hey, are you on the verge of potentially getting into that upper echelon of the UFC heavyweight division?
Yeah, I think that similar to some matchups last week, right? Like you have some intriguing stats, some impressive stats, but who are those stats against? Are they against legitimate competition? Are they against pure strikers? have you faced a wrestler of Serghei Spivac's caliber? Have you faced a grappler of Serghei Spivac's caliber? Um, are those stats overblown? Like, what is your strength of schedule like? And I think that's what's the most compelling thing in MMA is like, you know, is history going to repeat itself, or are you going to be checked in numerous areas and we're going to be like, oh wow, we completely overlooked the fact that he hasn't fought somebody stylistically similar to Serghei Spivac. I mean, we saw him against Rogerio de Lima. De Lima was able to land 3 takedowns and kick the shit out of his leg. So like De Lima has shown that Cortes-Acosta is beatable. Serghei Spivac has landed takedowns against unbelievable grapplers and wrestlers. You think that he's going to like be unable to take down Waldo Cortes-Acosta? I mean, he may struggle initially. He may struggle in some attempts, but this is the same guy that took down Jolton Almeida, Marcin Tybura, Derek Lewis, Augusto Sakai, Greg Hardy, Jared Vandera, Carlos Felipe, Tai Tuivasa, and I know some of those are strikers, yes. Waldo Cortes-Acosta is a striker. Jolton Almeida is a grappler. Derek Lewis is a striker, but is a behemoth. There are numerous fighters in here where like, okay, well, I think that, Serghei would struggle more with them than he will with Waldo Cortes-Acosta. If Cortes keeps us on the feet, I do think that he is the sharper boxer and will land more volume, as evidenced by the 7.1 strikes attempted for Spivac, and then the 11.75 strikes attempted for Cortes-Acosta. But the blend of the arts, the blend of the striking into the wrestling, into the grappling, with the ground and pound and the submission attempts, like when Spivac gets his grappling going, like from his trips and his throws all the way to his submission ability on the mat, I think that he's skill for skill one of the best grapplers in the UFC. I mean, let's not even just the division. I mean, like the throws, the trips. I love what I see from his grappling skill set. It's just, is the fight going to play out on the feet or is the fight going to play out on the mat? And, with Spivac's 4.56 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes translates to 7 attempted. I think that he's going to land takedowns. Whether he finishes Waldo Cortes-Acosta or not, I think there needs to be urgency with him getting his game going because clearly Waldo Cortes-Acosta is game. He's powerful. He's slick on the feet, and he knows how to win rounds. So Spivac can't hesitate. He's got to go in there, and he's got to impose his will. I will be picking Spivac, but, I mean, honestly, this is probably one of my least confident picks on the entire card, only because, like the momentum of one is on the upward trajectory in Waldo Cortes-Acosta, and Spivac has kind of been sputtering along within the division. So what's going to happen? Is Spivac going to reclaim his role, a part of fringe-worthy contenders, or is Cortes-Acosta going to kind of, leapfrog him into, starting to get ranked? We shall see. But I'll be picking Spivac's grappling to be the difference maker here, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's on the betting side. If I'm betting Serghei Spivac, I'm looking inside the distance props. That's me is because I think if he's going to get the win, it's going to come via stoppage in this one. Next up, we got Chaos Williams taking on Andreas Gustafsson. Of course, Gustafsson we were supposed to see last week. That fight did not happen. He is a plus 175 betting underdog, minus 210 for Chaos Williams. We don't have any DraftKings lines out on this one. I'm expecting this is going to be 8,600. And 7,600 with 8,600 being Chaos Williams here. Last time we saw Chaos Williams, he did suffer a defeat, a submission loss in February against Gabriel Bonfim. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. First time, and I know this is something you've kind of brought up the past couple of times we were talking about Chaos Williams, is a guy that just only fights one time a year. So this actually be the first time he fights 2 times in a calendar year since 2021. Hopefully I just did not put the curse on him to not make it to fight night by throwing that number out there.
I know. Thanks, Jason.
Gustafsson on the other side. Of course, this will be his UFC debut. Last fight being on Dana White's Contender Series, second round TKO win there against Paddy Pitlick. 3 canceled fights for him since signing with the UFC, and 2 of those being on last week's card.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting fight. You have Chaos Williams with several notable victories, several notable highlights. I mean, the highlight over what the heck's his name? The highlight over Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Holy moly, what a knockout! Prior to that, the Alex Morono knockout. You know, did pick up a nice knockout over the punchable Miguel Baeza and the the hittable Carlston Harris. So a lot of these guys that he's knocking out are hittable, and I do think that Gustafsson is pretty hittable in his own right, but it's the style of fight. I just don't see Gustafsson sitting there at range, allowing his opponent to do whatever he wants. Like Gustafsson closes range. He throws combinations to clinch. He constantly wants to be on top of you, clinching you, dirty boxing you, keeping you against the cage, elbowing you, chaining takedowns together, and just keeping it in an ugly fight. And whereas like Khaos Williams will throw barrages, but he tends to want things a little prettier than what I've seen from Gustafsson. Williams was taken down and ragdolled against Bonfim before he was submitted unconscious. I think that Gustafsson can land takedowns here. I really do. And I know that like the previous week, I was thinking Trevin Giles had a path to beating Gustafsson because I think that Trevin Giles takedown defense is pretty damn solid. He has a knack for leaving his neck out there and getting submitted, or he's getting knocked out. But like I think, it's just a dirty war for Gustafsson every single time that he's in there. I don't find him as to be some unbelievable finisher in the UFC. I just think he's a gritty type of fighter that can push you to limits. And maybe Giles could have forced it to stay on the outside where I think Gustafsson can struggle. I don't know if Khaos Williams can really do that. I know that Khaos Williams is coming off a loss. I didn't like what I saw from his grappling tendencies. I didn't like it at all from his takedown defense. And I've kind of been waiting for somebody to just not stand up with him. I mean, you saw it, against Michel Pereira landing two takedowns against them. But I don't know, Jason. I'm kind of feeling the underdog here in Gustafsson just making it ugly. As far as like underdogs to pick, it is a step up in competition, obviously. But I think that it proves Gustafsson doesn't care. He's ready. And from regional scene to amateur scene, the guy's had a pretty decorated career, but not the greatest strength of schedule. And then if you dive in, I haven't done the strength of schedules yet, but if you dive in and you look at Khaos Williams' career, I know that he hasn't had the best strength of schedule either. So for me, I'm going to be picking Gustafsson. Oddly enough, he's probably my favorite underdog on a card that I don't like a lot of underdogs. And granted, it's his UFC debut. I like the videos I saw of him training too. Like he's very, very tricky with his trips and his takedowns and his back control, and then he'll punch back into the clinch and he'll restart the process all over. So if this is open mat, I think he gets chewed up. I just don't think it's going to be open mat. I think it's going to be against the cage. So give me Gustafsson to kind of spoil Williams' return back in hopes of getting in the win column after that Bonfim decision.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine this was likely a scenario where the UFC probably looked at Gustafsson and his team and said, look, here's your two options. Either you can fight next week, we have an opponent for you, or you're going to wait 3 months until you get a fight. And it probably plays into it as well in terms of that one. Next up, we got another fighter who was supposed to fight last week. He actually pulled out of his matchup. That being Marcos Mederos. He's going to take on Mark Choinski. No DK pricing on this one either. Mark is at plus 200 on the betting lines. Mederos is minus 250. Mederos was supposed to take on Balaji Oki, which I'm telling you this right now, man. I'm labeling him as the guy I'm circling of I'm going to start betting against because I kind of see some flaws in that game. After watching that fight there against as well. He is 2-0, by the way. Mederos 2-0 in the UFC. Both those wins have come by decision. Mark on the other side. This will be his UFC debut. He was the Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship lightweight champion, coming off a successful title defense back in March, a first round submission win against John Ramirez. 5 of his 8 wins have come via submission, and he does train at Rufus Sport Beat.
Yeah, I'm going to want to see what the salaries are for this one. It's hard for me to back him here against Mederos because I've seen Mederos. I know what to expect. Very good fighter. Did show some susceptibilities of getting taken down against Austin Hubbard. I thought Hubbard won that fight or was very close. I could have been a little biased because of my bet on Hubbard in that one, but I think the striking clearly favored him 44 to Hubbard's 26, but he was controlled for majority of that fight, 7 minutes and 34 seconds. So I I really I really wonder how Marquel Mederos is going to deal with Choinski here. I think from the outside, he clearly has the better striking. He throws his hands well. He throws his knees well. He chops to the leg. I think that the grappling is clearly his weakest attribute, but I do think it could be improved upon, a part of the MMA lab. And, for Mederos, I'm interested because his volume isn't the best, but he's super tricky. He's got that Factory X type of style, where like that Dustin Jacoby type of style, just like the picking up the knees, the picking you apart, dancing around you. But he's a part of the MMA lab, and I don't know. I think that unless the line on Choinski is ridiculous, Mederos should be a sizable favorite and should look to kind of coast, pick them apart from the outside, defend takedowns if Choinski attempts them. And Mederos has been here and done this. So even though I'm not the biggest believer in him, I do think that he will do enough to get the job done. And victories over Isa Isakov on Contender Series when he knocked him out, a victory over Landon Quinones, and then a victory over Austin Hubbard, I think have prepared him for, a relatively newcomer, even though he is a champion in Anthony Pettis' fighting promotion. I think that Mederos will win here. It's just, what's the price tag on Choinski?
I'm projecting 7,500 on him and 8,700 on Mederos.
Okay. I mean, it's not amazing. I mean, like, I want to watch some more Choinski tape, but as I see it now, I think that it's a Mederos play, but one for DFS where I just don't. It's not a lot of volume, so it's hard for me to get behind you when there's not a lot of volume.
Yeah, I totally get you there. Next up, we got a female matchup. We got Ariane de Silva taking on Wang Kong. Wang Kong is a minus 400 betting favorite, 9,100 on DraftKings. De Silva, formerly known as Lipsky, she is 7,100 DK. She's a plus 300 betting underdog. She is coming off a submission loss in her last matchup, 6-7 in the UFC. She's lost back-to-back fights. Wang Kong coming off a decision win against Bruno back in February. 2-1 in the UFC. Her only UFC loss come via submission. Of course, we all know the kickboxing background that she does have, which Pete just gonna say is De Silva gonna lace up these wrestling shoes?
I mean, she definitely should look to, because Wang Kong has already shown to, drop the ball on one of her fights against Gabby Fernandez, who hit her with a big shot, even though Wang Kong was winning that fight. We did see Wang Kong come back and pick up a victory over Bruno Brazil, got 2 takedowns in her own right, put on a hell of a performance, 103 significant strikes. Before that, knocked out Victoria Leonardo, cupcake matchup. On the Contender Series, picked up a submission win via guillotine. I do think that Wang Kong is improving. She definitely is the better striker here. And in most cases, De Silva looks to keep the fight upright. It's just she's going up against somebody who also likes to keep the fight upright, but has succeeded at a much higher level than De Silva has. So, I mean, within a small sample size, you have Wang Kong attempting 12.2 strikes per minute, whereas De Silva is attempting 9.8. Even though Wang Kong is the striker with a small sample size, she has the higher takedowns attempted in 1.61 per 15 minutes, 0.52 for De Silva, which translates to 2 takedowns attempted for Wang Kong and 0.9 for De Silva. I don't know what to trust, because Ariane De Silva has shown horrible grappling IQ, horrible grappling skills time to time again if she's put on her back. Offensively, could she get some takedowns? Yes, she's done it in the past. She's landed takedowns over some interesting fighters. I mean, she took down JJ Aldrich twice, and she won a decision that way. Like she's typically the better striker. I just don't think she is here in this situation, and I don't trust her wrestling enough to get the job done. But from a value standpoint, it's kind of that Bruno Silva call where I just think the line is so wide, and we've already seen Wayne Kong kind of drop the ball and prove that she's somewhat untrustworthy in learning on the job. So when you have Wayne Kong at 9,100 and De Silva at 7,100, women's MMA is tempting. It's very tempting to get behind that 7,100, but I mean, I just think, okay, yeah, you like to strike, but your opponent does too and is a better striker. And I don't know. The firepower, resides with Wayne Kong here, and I'll be backing her to win a decision. But De Silva is a very interesting value piece in a 1-for-1 Silva or Ariane De Silva. Who do I like, Bruno Silva or her? It's a close one. Women's MMA is very hard to pivot away from. I think I'd say Bruno Silva personally, but I think the chalk would be more on De Silva than on Bruno Silva.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know the deficiencies in Wayne Kong's game. It's just whether De Silva decides to take that approach, or does she sit there and just have a striking match? If you tell me this thing plays on the feet, give me Wayne Kong all day long. Next up, we got two more fights left here. You got Jaka take on you minus 500 betting favorite, 9,500 on DraftKings, the second most expensive fighter currently on DraftKings. Shaka is 6,700 and a plus 350 betting underdog. He is coming off a first-round submission loss against Weston Wilson, 1-2 in the UFC. He's only gone to the decision once in his career. For saying making his UFC debut, he was signed off Dana White's Looking for a Fight when they did the episode for the Korean Zombies promotion, which Dana even noticed that typically we don't sign these guys who are 31 years old at the lighter weight class, but they were so impressed with him, they gave him this contract. And 2 of his last 3 wins, Pete, have come by first round stoppage.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this one super concise and say that Sang Yu's going to win. I think that he has the striking to knock out Jekasargi, also has the grappling to take advantage over a very wild Jekasargi who's shown holes in multiple areas. I think that Sang Yu has some superstar, or I shouldn't say superstar, some star potential for being an international talent. Very exciting. And I could see Sargi just going in here and trying to trade with him, getting knocked out in a very, very highlight reel type of fashion. And I can also see Sang Yu going out there and imposing his will inside the wrestling, and maybe ground and pounding Serghei here, because Serghei's just not top level in my opinion. He's a brawler. He's very wild, and he's just aggressive. Kind of got a lot of amateur tendencies for my liking. So I think that Sang Yu is clearly the side to back here. A lot of people, it's hard to find stats on him. But you need to go and watch the tape. A very exciting fighter. I'm going to be back in Sang Yu here, and I think he's one of the best options on the slate. I think he's going to finish the wild man in Serghei. So give me Sang Yu.
Yeah, it's one of those, every time you see someone come off, Dana White's looking for a fight, and then now they have this massive number attached to them. For whatever reason, I always get scared about that. But, if you did see that Dana White looking for a fight episode, I mean, he was super impressive in that one. Then our opening fight night, Quinlan taking on Yanal. Yanal is at 6,800 on DK, plus 350 betting underdog. Quinlan 9,400 on DK, minus 500 betting favorite. He is coming off a 19-second knockout win in his UFC debut there back in February. 6 of his 8 pro wins have come by finish. And on the other side, he's covered a decision win back in September against Trevor Peek, and he is 2-1 in the UFC, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting fight. I mean, another one where I just think the odds are out of their mind. I mean, like, yeah, I think Salkiel should be the favorite, but like, why is Yanal Ashmuz like so doubted? I mean, Salkiel has 5 years on him. He's 5 years younger than Yanal Ashmuz, and in the height plus reach department, he has 10 inches. Okay. The volume when you look on UFCstats.com is bananas, so maybe that's what's influencing the line. 10.14 strikes attempted per minute, whereas Ashmuz is half of that at 5.88, but has the more firepower, in my opinion. And we have seen Salkiel looked susceptible to big shots and got hurt on a Contender Series, and didn't really have much of a fight against Anshul Jubilee. The takedown volume from Salkiel because of the Contender Series fight is absolutely insane. 8.81 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes at 40% accuracy leads to 22 takedowns attempted, and I thought that was wrong. I thought my formulas were wrong. I went back and according to the Dana White's Contender Series fight, that's correct. It's crazy. It's nuts. Yeah, I mean, the pace in that fight in general was ridiculous and definitely unsustainable. Ashmuz can wrestle himself, and he's more of a muscle-bound guy, whereas Salkiel is a long-frame foe. So 4.8 takedowns landed per 15 minutes for Yanal Ashmuz at 50% takedown accuracy means 9.6 takedowns attempted. So, I mean, like, if Ashmuz gets in on the hips of Salkiel, I do think that he's strong enough to wrestle and to put him in bad spots. But Salkiel's jiu-jitsu is very good. He's very sneaky, too. He's a long-armed guy, so he's got to be, Ashmuz has got to be wise to the chokes. I will say that Ashmuz and Murzakanov come from the same gym, the K Dojo Warrior Tribe, and they are very, very prepared fighters, and they both have massive reach disadvantages. 10 inches in the height plus reach department as a disadvantage for Yanal Ashmuz, and 14 and a half inches in the height plus reach department for Murzakanov. So it's just like, they both know. I mean, they could go out there and just the game plan of the camp is just very similar, and they're able to impose their will, step on the inside, land their big power shots. And this is one where I don't mind the Yanal Ashmuz underdog pick. I really don't. Like, Salkiel is good, but when I watch him, I say he's hittable and, like, not my favorite prospect. I think that he's very talented, but he's got to – I don't know. I can totally see talented fighters taking advantage of some of his inefficiencies. So I'll probably play a little more Ashmuz than I should. This fight does seem like fireworks one way or another. I think that the submission skill set of Salkiel is kind of slept on. I'll pick Salkiel here, but I hate the line. I hate the line in majority of these fights. But this one, I really do hate the line. I think it's a little wide.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how our community looks at these 9,000 fighters this week, which ones are people getting to, maybe which ones are not getting to, and what's potentially going to be the leverage plays of this week. Before we get into our listener questions, we are going to hop right into our straight-up fight picks. In this one, the main event, give me Merab.
Yeah, give me Merab too, buddy. Stop it. Don't even. For straight up?
Harrison be the pick straight up. Gambling, DFS, Pena.
Harrison, man.
I will go Pyfer. Patchy mix. I would go Holland. Van. Azamat.
Murzakanov.
I'm going to take a shot on Cortes-Acosta.
Okay. I'm going to go Spivac.
I'll go Chaos.
I'm going to take a shot on Gustafsson here.
I'll go Mederos. Wayne Kong. Sang Yu.
I like him a lot this week.
And Quinlan will be my pick in the opening fight.
Yeah, I'll go Quinlan Salkiel.
Get some questions that came over here in the Discord channel before we kind of start to break this one up here for this episode. Value plays underneath 8K and a core 3 on DraftKings. When you look at value plays are underneath 8,000, I would say Cortes-Acosta just because of, I think, good chance that fight does end via finish. I mean, you got to throw O'Malley in there, and I think you have to throw Pena in there. But you made some good points on Yanal and also on Bruno Silva.
Yeah, I like both of those guys from like value standpoints. Same with Ariane de Silva. I mean, we're going to be looking at a lot of. I would guess that we're going to be looking at a lot of underdogs with very low scores. You know, like we could see paths for several fighters here, but it's a chalky card. It's a very chalky card.
In terms of a core three, my top two are easy. Then it gets really difficult. Top two for me, give me Merab and give me Patchy mix. Now,
do you like Patchy for DFS?
Yeah, I think he can get the takedowns.
Okay.
This is when I get to the third one. To me, it becomes of two thought points. Do I want to take someone in the 6K range that allows me to get to more of the high 8 and low 9 range, or do I just say, you know what, let's just play it smart? Merab, Patchy. And then I would probably either say Joshua Van or Waldo Cortes-Acosta.
Wow, really? Interesting.
Well, think about it. I mean, you've got a 9,000 fighter, 8,500 fighter. I got to start saving some money somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. How the hell are we going to do it this week when they all suck?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to look it up. I mean, if you just
I kind of want to just avoid some of these damn fights. I just want to go over after the fighters that like could maybe last 15 minutes.
Yeah,
because I can see a lot of these guys losing.
If you say I'm starting my roster with Merab and Patchy mix, my average remaining per player is 81.25.
I hate it so much.
No, if you sat there and let me just say, if I put Julianna Pena, now the roster construction becomes a lot easier. But what happens if Kayla Harrison only needs 2 takedowns?
That's what I mean. What happens if she needs 1?
Yeah. It's gonna be tough to hand build rosters this week, no doubt about it.
Yeah, very tough.
Let's see here. Best leverage plays. Tristan, I want to see where ownership comes in on these 9,000 options. That to me is where we're going to find our ownership play, best leverage plays this week. Best takedown upside. Kayla, Merab, Patchy. Do you throw Kevin Holland in there?
No. Kevin Holland?
Uses jiu-jitsu?
No. Maybe. I don't think so. I think he's just going to knock him out.
Yeah, those are ones I would sit there.
I think Spivac is one he needs to get takedowns.
Ranking the 9K options. We got a ton of 9K options. I would put Merab 1. I'd probably put Kayla 2 because of the takedowns potential, especially if it goes 25 minutes. 3, I would go Van. 4, Sang Yu. 5, Pyfer. 6, Quinlan. 7, Kong.
Yeah, I'd probably say Merab 1, Harrison 2. I think I like you 3rd, then Van, then Pyfer, then Kong, then Sal killed.
Next up here from Sam with his usual question. Best top plays. For me, I look Merab and Patchy mix me by top 2 plays.
I'm so nervous to roster certain fights because of what happens if they get knocked out. But, look at Merab's schedule. Holy moly, he's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's insane.
He had the long road to the title.
My God, you just see all the box scores. It's nuts.
He's the type of guy you want in DFS. Let's just be real about it. I mean, gets takedowns, and if the opponent gets up, just look at the on fight, the 50 takedown attempts. Guy's relentless what he's able to do. Live dogs. I would say Cortes-Acosta. I think you have to throw O'Malley in there just because of that knockout ability that he does have. You mentioned about Bruno and Yanal, and I'll throw Pena in there as well if she can keep the fight on the feet.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all those. I'm trying to build lineups right now as we're talking. Holy crap, I hate it. I mean, I need to get some. Still need 6 salaries. So
yeah. But they're all over 2-1 betting favorites, so it's not like
I'm gonna get to Gustafsson, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Best inside the distance fighters.
You?
I would. Yeah.
I like him a lot.
I would say I think you got to throw Holland in there. I think you got to throw Spivac in there. Cortes-Acosta.
I'm so scared about that fight. I might avoid it. I know it's hard to, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think if you truly want to get different this week is if you get away from the main event, go main event, and probably the Spivac fight, you're going. I mean, now that I would think you're eliminating 6 fighters from the equation, but would allow you to get a little different.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm trying to do right now, hand building this stuff, and it's hard. It's very hard.
Best decision odds fighters. I would say Merab. I would say main event, co-main event. I think are 2 high probabilities. This could be a very long night. I'll be on vacation in a 3-hour time difference from the East Coast, so it won't be too late for me. I just got to figure out how the hell do I watch these fights in Mexico. That's what I just got to figure out.
We're not doing the show the following week, right? Or are we?
Correct. No, not the following week. No, I'll be gone all week.
He's gonna be in a cabana just chilling.
Cocktail in hand, baby. Cocktail in hand.
There we go.
Try to maybe play a little golf too. I'll play 36 holes in a day.
You ain't playing 36 holes.
I will. I mean, if the first 18 go bad, then I may not get the other 18.
I'm saying, bro, you ain't making it. You're gonna be banged up by hole 9. You're gonna be done.
Yeah, well, you just got to contain, the adult beverages while you're golfing.
That's what I'm saying. You ain't gonna last 36.
I mean, look, I would almost say this. I mean, your top 3 fights might all go distance.
I don't know what to do with this damn card when it comes to I need these salaries because I need them to screw up somewhere. Because currently, I hate everything.
Yeah, I don't think you're going. I mean, Gustafsson, I think
screw up on.
It's just if you look at it right now, okay, you don't have an 8,900 fighter, you don't have an 87, an 86, an 84, 82, 8,000, 78, 76, 75, 73. Like there's nothing.
What fight are we stacking, bro? Are we stacking? What did O'Malley get in his last one? He got 19.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think he only threw 91 punches.
Surprised he got 19. He did nothing.
If Harrison wasn't such a huge favorite, and that price tag was in the low 9,000s, I can see stacking the co-main event. But at 9,700, I need a massive score.
I mean, you might still get it though. Pena put up 38 against Nunes in a 5-round loss. 38. So 38.
Oh, the fight that she is the fight that she doesn't understand how someone thinks she didn't win a round. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so she 5 extra value.
Yeah, sometimes Pena is delusional in her fights.
I hate her on the mic. She 5 extra value last time. So 5.42 times.
Oh, I know she's catching a lot of crap over her comments about drug testing. She ain't wrong that the fact of it's lax. It's not what it once was.
Yeah. So I totally agree. So Julianna Pena 5 extra value last time at 7,000, Jason. Okay, you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So at the same, she 5.428x her value. If she is to go out there and reciprocate that, okay, and 5x her value priced at 6,500, she is going to score 35 fantasy points in 25 minutes. That's so doable.
It allows roster construction. I mean, that's
so doable, Jason. 30. Okay, say it goes 25 minutes, and Payne and like Harrison is like, say she dominates everything and puts up a crazy score, stack or not.
yeah.
35 is all Pena needs to 5x.
That's why I think she's a very interesting DFS play. I mean, I almost say this. I think.
Am I gonna freaking play Pena, dude? Did you just talk me into playing her ass?
Look, in a cash game, how do you not take her? How do you not?
She got submitted by Durandamy. What am I doing? And she got submitted by Shevchenko. How am I picking her? I'm not picking her. How am I going to play her? The girl, she got submitted by Durandamy and submitted by Shevchenko. She's not going to get subbed by Kayla Harrison?
I'm just saying, that's the value, brother.
Bro, I mean, it's crazy. That's why MMA math, it doesn't work. It's insane.
It would not shock me. She's even in a loss, she's in the optimal lineup.
Yeah. Well, think about it, right? Like, I kind of want to say this point, and now that since we have a moment, Kayla Harrison has gone 25 minutes in the past.
Yes.
But that was up at a weight class that she did not have to cut weight at. So at 155 pounds, she was able to do it in the PFL.
I believe she was still cutting weight to make. I think she was still cutting weight to make 55.
I agree with you. My thing won't work, but it won't load. But I think it was 3 times she went 25 minutes. There it is.
Well, both Pacheco fights went 25 minutes.
That's what I mean.
Or 3?
So.
No, she fought Pacheco 3 times. Right?
I don't remember, dude. No.
I think they fought 3 times.
But so she can go 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And maybe her going 25 minutes proves that maybe her finishing ability is overrated.
Well, also, but the one thing, I think there's an ash you got to put in those PFL fights. They couldn't use elbows.
Yeah.
Now they do, but I just the weight cut is what would be the one concern I do have.
You're gonna make me play freaking Pena, dude. You're gonna get subbed in one.
I'll take my 10% finder fee. Next question: favorite parlays. I mean, right now you're just talking about money line bets, and there's just not a lot of value out there. I mean, I think
like such haters, but it's so true.
I just think this is one of those weeks on the betting side is that if you're not just taking a punt shots on some of these bigger underdogs, you're prop game hunting, and that's what I'll be doing on Saturday. I'll be prop game hunting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to because I hate all the damn odds.
Jason Pete special. Well, there is no Pete special this week because we don't have an 8,208,000 fight. The first fight of the night. I really don't want to get there. I really don't. I just price tag.
Which one's technically the first fight?
I believe it's supposed to be Salakid and Yanel.
Oh God.
At least the last fight card lineup I saw that was listed as the opening fight.
Not good, man. The freaking first fight of the night, the underdogs. We got to keep track. The underdogs in the first fight of the night have to be above 50%. I swear.
Yeah,
they are popping like crazy.
Yeah. Let's see here. Next up, highest leverage in the 8Ks. Well, right now we only have 3 fighters in the 8Ks, even though I do think we're going to see Chaos Williams and Marco Mederos be added into that range here. The leverage spot.
Who the hell is the leverage?
I mean, you're talking about right now, Holland, Mix, Spivac. I think they're all going to be decently owned.
That is insane. I just realized you've said it. You've been like, dude, the scoring, the pricing's wacky. And we only got 3 8. That's freaking nuts. Yeah. No wonder this sucks this week. I don't want to roster that Spivac Cortes-Acosta fight because that's essentially the 8,200, 8,000 fight that I struggle with. It's essentially the one of the week.
This comment just made me laugh in the YouTube. If Pena doesn't put up 40 and get smaller, it's a win also, like betting Bilal.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that fight cost me a lot of money. Top pump plays. I mean, obviously Pena is a pump play. I'd probably throw Bruno Silva in there if he can, not get into a high volume striking matchup. You got to throw O'Malley in there. De Silva, if she does lace up the wrestling shoes, becomes interesting as a pump play.
Yep.
Top captains and MVPs, Merab. I mean, he's going to be highly owned in that spot, but that is where I would go with that.
How could you not?
Takedown king and queen. Obviously, the king is going to be Merab. The queen, well, I mean, you look at it would have to be Kayla Harrison. It would have to be.
Yeah. What do we talk about?
What if Pena puts Kayla on her back?
Freaking no idea. My mind's going to explode. I think she's more likely to take her back, from just like a scramble.
Yeah.
But like,
road to the Manchester Series 6.5. We got 13 fights right now. Give me the over. I'm just gonna play the statistic aspect.
How many?
6.5.
Yeah, give me more. That's a good number.
Yeah, that's just to me. That's where you do. In terms of that, just want to go over. Missed this question.
Double stack win this?
Yeah. I'm guessing obviously this is about Kayla Harrison, but Sam's saying, will she meet value at that salary though? It's a great thought process because you probably need 120 at that price point.
Oh, all day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah. Chuck bringing up this double stack in cash, then pay up at the other two spots. I mean,
see,
that's a risk. That's a high risk.
So you're gonna double stack main and co-main?
Let me just look and see what does that. Let's just say we're just stacking the co-main.
Stack it both.
Just with the co-main event, that leaves you an average remaining of 8,450. You add in the main event, then you're at 8,800. But what you don't, if you're stacking the main event, you have to be sitting there thinking Sean O'Malley KOs him in the 4th or 5th round.
Not necessarily. You just need him to put up volume. Wasn't he awarded round 5 or one of the rounds on the scorecards? He didn't do shit in his first fight.
I feel like you are correct in that. Let me pull up MMA decisions. But I believe you're correct in that one. But it may.
He didn't do nothing. He was getting just ragdolled the whole time. He was getting kissed on the back by Merab Dvalishvili. I mean,
one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in the sport. So you had 49-46, 48-47, and 48-47. Michael Bell gave O'Malley the 5th round. That was the only round he gave O'Malley. Saudi Amato gave him the 3rd and the 5th. Bro. And Chris Lee gave him the 3rd and the 5th. And I mentioned about this earlier. The 3rd round is the round where Merab was 0 for 5 in takedowns.
Bro. That's scary as a Merab bettor. He did so much work.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, good Lord. What the hell fight were they watching?
Yeah, I think it's one of these things. I don't know what to expect out of Sean O'Malley. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is what do you expect? What do you think he's going to be able to do? That to me is the, has all these changes really had this masterclass effect on him?
Jason, they gave him the 3rd round. I mean, I can't remember the 3rd round off the top of my head. They gave O'Malley the 3rd round.
Yeah, the two judges had 48
strikes. 11 of 21 for O'Malley, 17 of 38 for Merab. Total strikes 11 of 21, so everything O'Malley threw was significant. 25 of 46 for Merab, and he attempted 5 takedowns and had 50 seconds of control time. I mean, like, I got to go back and I got to watch and see. I thought they just gave him the fifth round. I didn't realize they gave him the third round. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's just a matter of what adjustments has Tim Welch made that is going to, I mean, it all starts with you got to stop the takedown.
Yeah.
That's where it all starts. But that is going to do it for this episode of Fight HQ. Of course, be sure to join Pete's Discord channel. A link for that is in the description below. Also, you can check out our Discord channel, which is totally free to join as well. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Fight HQ. We'll be back with you in 2 weeks from now, as we'll have no show next week, but we'll be in Discord talking about the fight. So talk to you then.